Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pathways to Success, the podcast where we dive into the journeys of students and professionals chasing their dreams, sharing insights, tips, and real life stories. I'm your host, Ali, and today we're exploring the world of dentistry with Shefalee, a dentistry student who is here to walk us through her journey from A-level chemistry to applying for dentistry to life as a student balancing lectures, labs, and clinical practice. Whether you're thinking about applying to dentistry or just curious about what it's like, this episode is packed with advice and inspiration you won't want to miss. So Shefalee, welcome to the podcast.
It's so good to be here, honestly. It's love. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for taking your time out, because I know you are really busy with your clinical stuff you're doing and how busy you are with probably lectures and everything else as well. So thank you so much for making the time as well.
No. Honestly, it's so nice to be here. It's so good to be able to share advice. And I think this would be hopefully a really good episode so that people can learn about dentistry, what it's like, and the whole application process as well.
Yeah, I think it will be amazing. So let's start right from the beginning. Could you introduce yourself, what year you're in at the moment at uni, and where are you studying dentistry?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Shefalee. I'm a third year dental student at King's College London.
Amazing. So in terms of dentistry, what would you say made you want to go into dentistry? Was there always something you saw yourself doing, or was there some sort of shift later on in life?
So I think there was so many reasons as to why I wanted to do dentistry. And one of the main reasons, I know it sounds like a cliche personal statement type of answer, but it was genuinely to improve people's confidence when it comes to smiles, because smiles are really they're literally the biggest part of your face. It's the thing that most people pay attention to, especially when it comes to appearance. And I just thought that providing that boost of confidence for another individual is so rewarding. And just being able to do that, but also focusing on the functional and the restoration as well, because I think nowadays, especially when it comes to social media, a lot of value is placed on aesthetics and the way in terms of appearance as well. And as much as, yes, of course, confidence and self-esteem is so important, I think it's also important that people learn about oral health and the importance that oral health actually plays and the link between that and then your general overall health. Most people ignore the fact that sometimes diseases and health issues, they often do present in your mouth. So that's one reason. Another reason is because it's more of a niche than it is in comparison to medicine. And being able to just focus on the head, neck, and jaw area, it just felt more appealing to me. And rather than kind of looking at everything. And then in terms of the more hands-on aspect, you kind of start clinical things from first year, but then you become even more and even more clinical rather than just having a placement. You're actually treating your own patients,
Amazing.
Which is really cool. And I think that that's something that really did draw me towards dentistry. And then work experience and stuff really did help to kind of supplement that interest.
Yeah, love that. I think that's a really good way to put it, because aesthetic dentistry is a big deal, and I think a lot of people are going in towards that route. And especially nowadays, so many people are going away to Turkey or something to get the Turkish teeth or what have you. We've got the best people already in town, so hopefully they won't need to do that going forward. But yeah, so I know you obviously did various A-levels, and I obviously had you for chemistry. It was a pleasure having you over the 2 years that we had. Would you say chemistry, A-level chemistry, did it help you prepare for dentistry?
100%. I feel like a lot of people think that when you go to dentistry, it's just all about teeth. But I literally had a lecture. I was finishing off a lecture today and it was all chemistry. It was literally addition polymerization. Wow. It was about ketones, alkenes. It was all to do with composites and materials and stuff. So even just science in general, it's so big when it comes to dentistry. It's not just kind of the medicine part of it. And having that knowledge, it kind of really helped me to understand it, because there's also parts of it that have physics. So there's elastic modulus, stress strain curves. And when I'm looking at it, I have no idea what I'm looking at, honestly. But having background in chemistry has really helped me to kind of get to grips when it comes to lectures. Yeah. And especially in first year, when things are so much more academic, there was a lot of things that were kind of bouncing off of A-level chemistry. I remember we had a lab that was literally based on titrations, and you would never think that you'd be doing that again when it comes to uni if you're doing a medical-based course. But you do. Chemistry did really help, honestly.
Amazing. So in terms of, I know you did chemistry, what other A-levels did you do? So when it came to picking your A-level options, what other?
I did biology and psychology as well.
Okay, cool. And when you did pick your A-levels, would you say you did it on the basis that you were going to go down the medical route eventually of some sort? Or was it kind of,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It was more to do with the medical type of route. And also I do naturally enjoy like biology and
Mhm.
chemistry, and psychology was more of an essay subject. And I really enjoyed English at GCSEs as well.
Mm.
So it kind of combined like the English and the science for me together to like for me to then pick
Yeah.
psychology as like my like third A level.
But let's be honest, chemistry was the best A level though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chemistry.
I'm joking. You don't have to, you can be honest. It's absolutely fine.
No, I actually enjoyed all of them equally. Like
Yeah.
I really did. I think chemistry was really fun,
I like that. You're keeping
especially
everybody
the
happy here.
lesson.
No, it's fine. We get it.
Yeah,
It's okay.
trying to keep everyone happy.
Right, let's talk about the application process. So, because dentistry
Yeah.
can be quite competitive in the UK, and all over the world as well, to be honest. So when did you
Yeah.
start preparing for your application? Like, what part of like in your A-level journey you started preparing?
I started actually in year 12. I think in year 12, I was kind of pulling all like the extracurriculars and stuff together, especially like the volunteering, the work experience. That's what I used year 12 for, to try and get all of that done and see and kind of solidify whether dentistry was really for me. Because I feel like year 12 is that crucial time just before UCAS applications and stuff begin, where you want to be able to deliberate
Yeah.
whether that is like the correct choice for you or not. So I was doing all of that in year 12. And then towards the end of year 12, I booked my UCAT, sat that exam beginning of September. And then from there onwards, I focused on my personal statement and then the submission. So that was kind of the UCAS process specifically for dentistry.
Okay.
And then afterwards, it was the interviews and getting to do like and doing all of like the interview prep for that, going to the uni if I needed to do the interviews, and then seeing whether I got the offer or not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good planning because I think it's important for, everyone who's interested in applying to know that there is a lot that goes in year 12 behind the scenes in order to prepare for it,
Yeah.
right? Because otherwise, if you leave everything to last minute, you're going to be really stressed out and you're going to struggle with
Yeah.
what to put in your personal statement and stuff like that. So in terms of the actual UCAS process, how did you like prepare for the UCAT and how did you find that process overall? Like, was it very stressful or how did you deal with it?
Yeah, so the UCAT in itself is probably one of the toughest exams I've sat to this date. It was so hard,
Mm,
and I think I like that time period in my life was so stressful because that was kind of like the make or break. You know, all the unis do look at your UCAT and your decile and your ranking and stuff to kind of rank you against other people. So
mhm,
that's really where the competition lied. And, kind of made you a suitable candidate or not for like a medical degree. But I used Medify specifically,
okay.
and I found that it was good, but I sometimes found that the questions were a little bit easier than what I got in the UCAT. And of course, it's not a standardized test, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you get the luck or you don't on the day. But I remember in my verbal reasoning, I had essay after essay after essay. Like halfway through, I was just guessing questions and strategically making like choices. But the best way to go about it is honestly through practice. Practicing every day, but without burning yourself out, and having that balance is really important
Mm,
because it's so easy to get caught up and be like, oh, I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. And then eventually you get to this burnout phase where you just start declining in scores.
mm,
And that, like, you don't want to get to that phase. You kind of want to go into the test, obviously, at your prime. So I would say it's really important to keep that balance and maybe doing a little bit every day, maybe an hour every day.
mhm,
And then also knowing how long it takes for you to be like, kind of get used to something as well.
yeah,
Because for me, it takes me a long time to kind of, revise everything. Like I know for A levels, for example, I started in January, February, where I know other people started March, April, May, like, closer to the time of the exam. But for me, I know that it takes me a lot more to get used to that.
mhm,
So it's also dependent on the person as well and the way you want to go about it.
yeah,
If you know that you're one of those crammers who's able to kind of get everything done within 3 or 4 weeks and do really well without stressing yourself out, of course, that's the strategy. But if you know that you're not someone who can do that and that actually ends up stressing you out even more, it's better to start earlier, take it slow, pace yourself out, take those breaks, and then do the exam in peace. So it's really up to you on the way you do UCAT because it is really stressful and it's kind of getting to know yourself through that process as well, which is really important.
yeah.
But yeah,
No, that's great. I think you're right because every single person is different. And I think you need to find what works for you. So you can't, like some people prefer to just do the prep over summer, for example. And so they'll just sit through
exactly.
the whole summer and just cram everything in. But then that can be
Yeah,
stressful for other people. So they prefer to just do bit by bit. So no, I get what you're saying. And I think that's important for everyone to decide for themselves what's right for
yeah,
them, really.
100%.
Yeah, amazing. So in terms of choosing the university, how did you decide which university you wanted to apply to?
So actually, I was really ignorant and I was like, okay, King sounds amazing. Queen Mary sounds amazing. Bristol, Birmingham, wow, amazing dental schools. I'm just going to apply to them without looking at any of the information on their website. I have the stats, I have the grades. It was so
Yeah.
stupid. And
I'm
I just
surprised.
put
I
them
didn't think that
down.
would be you, but yeah, okay.
I know. But I was like, in the moment, I was like, I want to be like happy where I am.
Mhm,
And I don't want to go for somewhere that's a bit too far.
mhm.
And, just for the sake of saying that I got the offer. So I was really stupid and I just applied to the most competitive ones for the sake of it. And also for the name as well. Like I have to shamefully say that.
No, but the thing is,
But
it's good. You should aspire to go to the best universities, and I think you should aspire to go to the
yeah,
ones that are top ranked, and especially in London universities, as we know, they're highly competitive,
yeah,
but it's doable. And it's just the fact that if you look at the entry requirements for the different universities, it gives you a kind of insight into what you should be doing behind the scenes in order to prepare for it. So it's good to plan ahead, definitely, and it's good to.
yeah.
I think you should always be aspirational, and you should always think about going to the best institutions.
100%. But that being said, I think it's also important to apply strategically,
Yeah,
which is something
of
I didn't
course.
do. Like I had like my UCAT was 2,760 band 2. And of course, you can get way better than that. It's not bad, but it's not incredible, you know? And Bristol, I didn't know this at the time, but Bristol had a really high UCAT cutoff of 2,900. That being said, that was basically a waste of like, an application for me
Hmm.
because I could have applied somewhere else if I
Yeah,
just did the research and I looked at their website and I looked into what they require in terms of the UCAT rather than just obliviously going for it, you
yeah,
know? But I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made during my application process. And I advise people listening to this or watching this to look on the websites and see what actually suits you and see if your stats are good enough for that university rather than just kind of putting yourself into it and
yeah,
then as a result wasting the opportunity that you could have had with another incredible dental school.
yeah.
So that is something. And also my last option as well, I chose dental therapy and hygiene because I was like, oh my God, another dentistry related degree. How perfect, right? Little did I know how competitive that was, if not more competitive than dentistry, where they had over when I received my rejection for it. And that was my fifth option. So at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I think they said that there was 1,200 applicants for 37 spaces,
Yeah.
which is
Uh, You
insane.
know what's funny? You add that just to add to what you said is I had a conversation with a student last year, and they were in a position like they weren't doing very well in their A levels, and so they didn't get the they were just like, oh, I'm just going to retake it, and if not, I'll just do dental hygiene. And the way that she said it, I was like, do you even realize like how competitive it is to even do dental hygienist course if you wanted to do it? But she was just so
Yeah.
deluded in terms of just kind of, oh yeah, I'll just apply for this, and I'll get in kind of thing. But I think reality hit her soon, and she realized that it's not just straightforward, just applying for just another course because it's not dentistry, it's just easy to get in kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's not the case at all.
Hmm.
And I feel like once you're in that bubble of dentistry, you kind of think everything else is so much more easier, but it's not the case at all. Every degree has its level of competitiveness, and it's so important to take that into account as well for that fifth option. It is because, again, you want to make sure that that's strategic too, rather than it just being the case of, yeah, I'm going to apply to it because the grades for it I already have them. If not, my grades are higher. You know,
Yeah,
I feel like that's really important.
yeah,
So I
no,
would say, yeah,
absolutely.
to take that into consideration.
Definitely, definitely. Nice. So let's talk about personal statement because that's a big one usually on everybody's kind of radar when it comes to it. What kind of
Yeah.
things did you focus on to make yours like stand out?
Okay, so in terms of making my personal statement stand out, I feel like there's a few things that everyone falls into the trap of doing, but it's so important to avoid. One of them being I had braces, my confidence increased, so now I want to be a dentist.
Yeah,
The amount of personal statements I've read that's written that, it's actually insane. And then to think that, I've written it, but you also have to consider how many other people have written that too.
Exactly.
So that is such an important thing to think about, making sure that you don't really have those generic statements. And I know it's hard because obviously it's unless you have really, really done your research, or maybe going through like more of like a scientific route to your personal statement by talking about, really niche things.
Mhm.
It's kind of hard to kind of formulate that introduction where it's not talking about increasing confidence or, something on that sense. So I kind of went for more of a spin-off, and I was talking about my grandfather because he has had so much like dental issues and things like that, and then seeing that boosting confidence. So rather than talking maybe about yourself, talk about other people, I'd say.
Yeah.
Also, not listing. That's a really important thing that people kind of fall into, because you kind of want to say, I have this quality and I have that quality, or dentistry requires this quality and that quality. But you're kind of then convincing the tutors or the people or the professionals reading your personal statement of a career that they're already in,
Yeah.
and it's kind of lacking that personality.
Mm.
So you want to kind of reflect instead and make sure that, you've learned the skill, or you've seen this in work experience, and this has taught me this. And therefore I decided to do something else to improve the skill.
Mhm.
So you're kind of creating these nice links in your personal statement to make it a little bit more interesting and more unique and more personal to you. I think those are the main things as well. But yeah, a lot of people talk about the whole increased confidence, I got braces,
Yeah. Like the
myself
cliche stuff
improved.
that they think will be nice to
Yeah,
put in kind of thing.
like the cliche stuff. Try and avoid that as much as possible. I would also say having that structure and flow in your personal statement is also
Yeah.
really important as well. So I structured it having an introduction, going on to talk about my work experience and what I learned from it, then going on to like volunteering, extracurriculars, and then going on to kind of briefly mentioning about my A levels, why that's helped me,
Yeah.
and then concluding it all.
Mhm.
So kind of giving that structure to it, and try and do things also that maybe aren't so much so dentistry orientated. They want to see that you have a personality,
Exactly.
rather than dentistry is my whole life before you even get into it. So I would say that that's really important. Like, for example, I volunteered in a library and I was helping kids kind of become more engaged in STEM through like doing mini activities or like mini videos or hosting things in the library, for example, rather than it just being, I went to shadow this dentist and this dentist and this dentist. I remember did like volunteering with the lab technicians as well in Herschel as well.
Yeah, I
That was
remember you
so
did that.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. So kind of doing more unique things
Yeah.
rather than everything to do with dentistry. Like I also did work experience in a pharmacy as well,
Mhm.
just so that because it's even more to do with like communication. And I feel
Yeah.
like having that side of things and being able to really hone those skills is also really important. So
Absolutely.
showing that you're kind of a well-rounded person rather than just someone who's just dentistry focused.
Yeah. Now, did you do work experience in a dental setting before?
Yeah, I did that too.
You did that as
I think that's also really
Yeah,
important
of
though,
course.
because you do wanna obviously see if the career is for you.
Yeah.
So I did work experience in a mixed NHS private practice,
Yeah.
and I also did it in like a pediatric clinic as
Oh,
well.
okay.
And you kind of learn so much about, you know, the communication, the way you talk to both, like especially in the pediatric clinic, I'd say, like the children and the parents, like you're educating both of them.
Mm.
And then also just being able to see what kind of procedures you'd be doing on a day-to-day basis. It's really important to kind of, and even today, like I'm obviously not doing half as much as like a qualified dentist would be doing. Knowing that I'd be doing that in the future is kind of like a whoa.
Yeah.
And can you really see yourself doing all of that in just a day? And if you're going to be able to manage that on a day-to-day life. So work experience really exposes you to that. And also it could kind of influence where maybe you'd wanna go in the future.
Mm. It gives you a
That's also
feel of
another.
what it's gonna be like, isn't it, in that setting, like, kind of things you're gonna be doing on a day-to-day basis, whether it's for you,
Yeah.
and it gives you so did you do yours, like, as a block placement, or was it, like, over a longer period of time? How did you do your work experience? Does it matter, or
So
what would you say?
I would say it doesn't really matter,
Mhm.
because I would say personally, like 3 or 4 days is enough
Mhm.
maximum. Like I know people say a week or 2 weeks, but honestly, because it's very routine, especially in like, for example, a normal dental practice, you are going to kind of see the same things every single day. And after a while, I'm going to be completely honest, it's going to just become like, oh, I'm kind of here just to say I've
Yeah.
done it. So if you want to gain the most out of it, I would say really go for like a solid 3 to 4 days, maybe different practices as well, different specialities,
Mm.
gain the most that you want from that. And then I'd say that's really enough because in a personal statement, at the end of the day, you also only have 4,000 characters.
Yeah.
And as much as you have like work experience, you have so much more else to talk about too.
Mhm.
And you don't want to kind of get to the point where it's like, I have so much to talk about. I don't know which parts to take in and take out. So you really want to be able to take like the key message away home
Mhm.
and gain more quality over quantity, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, no, that's really good. That's really helpful to know actually, because a lot of people have this
Yeah.
understanding that, oh, I have to do, 2 weeks and, it's important. And you're just like, no, it doesn't actually matter as long as you have some
Yeah.
experience. So you can talk about it in a statement,
Yeah.
for example, or if you go do like you did the pharmacy one, like that's
Yeah.
still transferable skills which you can take to anywhere really, let's be honest.
100%.
And that's just as important as well. And so I think there's a lot of people who are
Yeah.
watching maybe want to kind of delve into other parts of doing work experience rather than just a clinical setting. It would help you to make you an all-rounded person, which is obviously is
Yeah.
important. Right, great. So let's say that you've done your personal statement now, and let's move into the
Yeah.
next phase of the application. What about the interviews? Did you have to do any multiple mini interviews, panel
I
interviews?
did.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I had one panel interview for King's, and then I had one MMI for Birmingham, sorry. MMI was tough, I'm not gonna lie. And Birmingham is also notorious, I think, for giving hard MMIs. Like, I remember they gave me, like, a dental drill. I've never touched a drill before in my life, and they were like, you know the umbrella from Squid Games?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In that cookie?
What they gave you
They
one of?
literally said,
Really? They
huh?
actually gave you the?
Mm.
Yeah. Wow.
It was a piece of acrylic
Yeah.
instead
Okay.
of
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. But
cookie.
still, but they made you kind of cut out the umbrella shape.
Yes! I
What?
was like "What is
Yeah.
going on right now? There's no way nothing could have prepared me for that,
Yeah.
honestly." And they said like, "Oh, at like a certain depth as well." And I was like, "I'm just gonna give it my best shot at this point and call it a day." Because like, it was a really tough interview. Like, another station they had, they kind of made you do, like, you know, like the magicians, like, pick a card, any card. And, like, it was just a bunch of, like, cards, like, faced over. You flip it around, and mine said pen on it, and I just had to talk about a pen for 5 minutes straight. So it was a very miscellaneous interview,
Wow.
and it wasn't really like a why dentistry? Why do you need to be
Hmm.
like this? Or why do you need to have this quality? Or tell me about a time when you've seen this. Like, another part of the interview they asked me is that if you could see or talk to a famous like dead person, who would it be and why? And at this point I was panicking because I was like, these are not the questions that I prepared for. And I panicked and I said Nelson Mandela for no reason. Like, I
I mean,
literally
that's a great
didn't even
figure.
know
So
what to
I can see why it would come to mind, right? Because you want to ask lots of questions. Yeah.
right? But what's that got to do with dentistry, you know? Like,
I think a lot of it is kind of to check your personality and see how you approach to that question. So a lot of people would go
yeah,
in there quite not, let's just say unprepared, and then
yeah.
they would be like, "Oh, how do I approach this?" So you have to kind of think on the spot. So they want to see how do you think on an
How well you
unfamiliar
can do
context
that.
or situation. Because let's be honest, if you're in
Yeah.
dentistry setting, you're going to be dealing with so many different types of patients. Most people will be generally nice people, and you kind of get on your day. But then you will get some characters, and you're going to get in a random thing thrown at you in the middle of the day where you have to really be patient and take it easy and take an approach that's going to ease the situation. So I suppose these kind of
Yeah.
they want to kind of test to see maybe how you respond to those kind of contexts and what kind of thing you come up with really to see your personality, isn't it?
Yeah, so they were really trying to throw you off. I
Mm,
think the panel interview for Kings was much nicer. It was a very structured, like you had 5 minutes to answer one question, and
yeah.
there was four questions, and that was quite a standard interview. But I would say the MMIs, I think that requires a little bit more practice and being able to kind of throw yourself in the deep end and not get put off by someone really just asking you a question that you haven't been prepared for.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Being able to kind of focus under pressure, pull yourself back in if you need time to think about something rather than kind of panicking on the spot, which is something I did actually. I remember in like another part of the interview, I literally had to tell the examiner, hold on a second, can I just take a minute to think about my answer? Because I just genuinely didn't know what to say. So I think it's really important to be able to kind of deal with those situations and prepare yourself for those, like in hindsight, maybe getting like a friend or a family member to even like throw in some random like curveball questions at you that, you wouldn't be preparing for just normally, just so that if you did kind of experience that, you would know how to deal with it. So I'd say that's really important.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think when it comes to the actual preparation for it, a lot of people don't do enough preparations for it, I would say. And one of the
Yeah,
things I noticed over the years is, many students have the amazing like predicted grades and even go on to get really good grades, but don't actually end up making it. And I genuinely feel that maybe they didn't do well on their interviews. Hence why I've put in place
yeah,
many things now to help the future generations to kind of do that the right way. During
that's really
your time, did you do like any practice runs of interviews or anything like that? Or did you buy into anything? Like, there's so many providers out there nowadays.
yeah, you see, I didn't.
Mhm.
So I kind of took it on my own head to just do like interview prep. I remember, I think I practiced with, Abdullah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I practiced once with him and he was throwing a lot of like hard questions at me. But apart from that, I literally just had this notion just full of like interview questions from every single website I could possibly find. And every day I'd just be testing myself or getting someone to ask me the question.
Mhm.
But in hindsight, because like I didn't really know how to, like, of course, like you have like the different structures to answering the questions and stuff like that. It's also so it can, you can kind of fall into the trap of being really rehearsed as well. Or
No, we
like
don't want that.
again in like my, yeah, you don't want that.
Mm.
And also in my panel interview, because I was waitlisted for King's, right? I asked for my interview feedback back. And in my first question, I thought I was being quite passionate, but they said that I sounded quite rehearsed. So,
Okay.
like even if you get excited about a question or you are genuinely passionate about something, you kind of have to think about the way you're answering the question from the perspective of the examiner,
Mhm.
because you don't know how they're going to perceive what you're saying, unfortunately, as much as everyone would love that.
Of course.
Like you really aren't. So I think that that's really important as well, being able to kind of deal with that, managing your tone, the non-verbal cues, using hand gestures, for example, having a smile on your face, of course, even if you could be crumbling inside. Like that's another really important part of interview prep too, making sure, like I would say video yourself
Mm.
actually, whilst answering the questions. So you can kind of look back and be like, maybe I should be adding in a few more hand gestures, or maybe I should be smiling more,
Yeah.
or maybe I should be controlling the tone of my voice so that I don't sound too boring or too overly excited.
Yeah. No, I
And
I
I
think
think
that's
that will help as well.
Yeah, I think the video element that you mentioned, recording yourself, maybe answering questions to see how you kind of
Yeah,
perform is a good idea because that's actually something a lot of people can use to, better themselves in a lot of ways. And especially for interviews,
yeah,
it's so hard to know how you do in the moment. But at least you can see from the
yeah,
camera reviewing it back and see how you've done. It'll be a good way to kind of improve on it, isn't it? No, that's a really good idea. I think that's a
yeah.
good tip, definitely. Yeah. So looking back then, is there anything you would do differently in your application for dentistry?
Firstly, I'd actually look at the university
Okay.
website. I think that's the biggest thing. And I would also probably say, like, I got rejected from literally everywhere. And I think I wasn't prepared for dealing with rejection either.
Mhm.
Like, even after the Birmingham interview, I was rejected. And then kind of, having that after feeling that you've worked so hard and stuff. And of course, like you're bound to kind of be down about it.
Of course.
So being able to really deal with that and kind of take away from the negative experience like a lesson to learn not just about yourself, but kind of more just about the entire like application process as well, like kind of both simultaneously, like yourself and the application process is
Yeah.
kind of really important to take that away. So I would probably also tell myself not to be so overly harsh and critical and learn the difference between self criticism and self reflection. I think there's a very fine line between the two of them.
Yeah.
And once you kind of push yourself over the edge of constantly criticizing yourself and being too overly analytical, you fall into that trap and you kind of begin to spiral and feel as if, maybe this isn't for me when it really is. And it's just because you haven't prepared yourself for how hard and how competitive it actually is. Like you don't really know what you're facing until you're in it, right?
Yeah.
So I would probably say just bracing and being able to accept failure and rejection, and also simultaneously kind of, not being too oblivious to what you're kind of facing as well. So I think they all kind of tie into each other.
Yeah.
But I would say that's kind of the main things I would be telling myself.
Yeah,
It
no, I
would
think that's great
just be
advice. That is great advice because I think
yeah,
a lot of people that apply for, especially like top universities, and then they get rejections
yeah.
and they really don't know how to deal with it. And I think sometimes it is understandable because in the moment you're just almost like your dreams shattered. That's what it feels like, and you
Yeah,
think that your
it
life
does
is
feel like
over. and all the hard work and prep you put into it, you're just like, all of a sudden everything's coming down on you kind of thing. Or like, what would you
Yeah.
say to them to do in that moment? Like, how did you, like, would you say, how was the best way to deal with that?
I would say actually give yourself time to process it.
Yeah.
Like it is so
It's
hard in the
intense,
moment.
the
Like
whole process.
completely, yeah, it's so intense. And also you're literally 17, 18,
Yeah.
and this is supposed to be your entire like future, right? As you said. So I would say actually give yourself the time to process it. If you need to cry about it, cry about it.
Yeah.
If you need to take some time to yourself and kind of, be like, okay, right, let me look for alternatives now, do that. Because again, everyone's so different. Like for me, for example, I just needed time to kind of be like, okay, what is my next step? What can I do to improve next time? This does really obviously like hurt, but being able to kind of also process that, I also think that's a really good quality to have rather
Mm.
than kind of bottling it all up
Yeah.
and, forcing it down rather than actually kind of talking about it.
Mm.
Talking about it also really does help, I'll be
100%.
honest.
Yeah, 100%. I think,
So this yeah,
yeah, no, you're
different
right. I
ways of
think taking a step back sometimes and just kind of take a big breather, speak to somebody, and just kind of
yeah,
just think about it, like, I mean, holistically, because it's not the end of the world. There's other opportunities, there's other options.
no,
You can, it doesn't end there.
100%.
It's not the end of the world kind of thing. But I think in that
No.
moment, you will feel like that. But you're like, I think your advice was spot on, actually. Let's fast forward to today, because I want to
Yeah.
know what a day in the life of a dentistry student is like in King's, let's say.
Okay, so right now, currently, I'm normally in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Hmm.
Wednesday and Friday are kind of my clinical days. So that's where I'm treating patients. So in the morning, for example, I could treat someone and my partner would then be nursing for me. And then in the afternoon, we would swap. So that's what we do on that day. And then Monday's kind of like our day. So currently, right now, we're studying prosthetics. So that's about dentures, crowns. It's kind of the hardest part so far.
Okay.
But we're then practicing on like the phantom, like the dummy heads, and we're kind of getting used to those skills. And
Yeah.
then that's in preparation for an exam that will be later in like the year for us to then practice that on patients then next year.
Yeah.
So all the things that I'm currently doing on patients right now, we've been examined on it last year on those phantom like dummy heads and stuff. So last year, for example, I was doing like scaling people's teeth or like doing a filling, for example. But now I can now do that on a patient after passing that exam. So that's kind of what we're doing and learning how to make dentures and stuff as well on that Monday. But yeah.
Yeah. That sounds intense, but exciting at the same time. So,
Yeah, it is really exciting.
yeah, and so have you started with patients, like working with patients closely now, or
Yay. So literally, I think on Wednesday as well, like I've got a patient coming up. I'm not sure about what I have to do, but that's like you kind of see on the day. It's kind of like a new challenge every single
yeah,
day, basically. You read through what the previous person's written about, like their medical history and what needs to be done. You present that to your tutor, and then you kind of just get on with it
mm,
and then call them over once you're finished. So it's quite fun actually. And it does kind of put you on the spot as well, because if you do see something that you're not used to seeing, there is a lot of support as well on the clinical floors, which is nice too. So they don't really expect you to obviously get everything right first time round. And, I think that would be really unfair if that was the case as well. But they're really there to support you and kind of guide you through how to treat a patient like effectively too.
yeah,
And yeah, and also, sorry, I forgot to mention, like we do have lectures as well.
yeah,
Like every Tuesday we get like I think it's just like a range of lectures that they expect us to do throughout the week, and they're all online, so you're not expected to attend in person for any of
okay,
them. They're kind of like YouTube videos.
okay. So do you tend to go in
Yeah,
a lot of the times, or do you tend to kind of mix it up and sometimes watch it
I'll be
online?
honest. Yeah, I'll be honest. Like I just watch them online. It's
Fair
so much
enough.
easier. And also they don't do them in person. Like there's no actual official lecturer with like presentation slides. It's just all on all on
Oh,
online now.
I
Yeah.
see. Right, right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. I didn't realize that was the case. Okay, fair
I
enough.
think that's for Kings specifically though. I'm not sure about other
Mm,
unis when
no,
it comes.
that's really interesting to know because I would have thought, you'd go in kind of thing. And yeah, no, fair enough. Okay. Right. So I know obviously during A levels, like you have various kind of, you have to juggle between three subjects. Some people do four, but most people do three subjects and they're all very in advanced level subjects. And it's quite a challenge, generally speaking, from GCSEs going up into A levels as it is. How did you
Yeah.
find your transition from A levels to university level dentistry, let's say?
I'll be honest, like you do kind of get thrown in the deep end.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot. Like especially because like I said, the content in first year and second year is very academic. It's very biology is like biological. There's a lot of chemistry as well. It's like a lot of science.
Mm,
But you kind of just if you pace it out, I think, and you kind of go through it slowly, making sure that you're not overwhelming yourself. It's not too bad, I'd say. But of course, like with any degree, you'd expect the lecture content to be quite heavy in detail, and they are. But like I said, if you break them down and stuff enough and you take your time with them, you kind of do get used to it in a lot more detail. But yeah, I'd say the most important thing when it comes to that, to kind of, you know, bridge that gap between A levels and uni, is to really make sure what you're at the beginning, you don't just be like, "Oh my god, I have like 10 million lectures to do. I need to do all of them." No, it's kind of like pacing yourself out through them, and I think that really helps with it. But
Mhm.
in terms of content-wise, there is that gap, I would say, and it is a little bit more in detail, but you do recognize a lot of it from your, like, A level, and then it gets built upon.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
But yeah.
great. Yeah. I think generally from any sort of stages in educational career, you're going to find it's going to be a big jump of some sort. And then you kind of ease yourself
Yeah.
in and you deal with it and you kind of come up with your own systems that kind of helps you to be organized and deal with the workload that you're going to it comes with. But yeah, no, that's really
Yeah.
helpful. What would you say has been the most challenging part of the degree so far?
I would say the most challenging part is probably the imposter syndrome. Like you're constantly surrounded by people who are very, very good at both the academics and at balancing their social life. And sometimes you feel as if, like, I need to also do that too, you know? But it's not as easy as you think it is.
Mm,
And I think that dealing with that, and I would say a lot of dental students do deal with it, and kind of, you know, having that kind of misjudgment sometimes where it's like, do I really like belong here and stuff like that? Because it does feel really intense and challenging at times. But being able to deal with that in the first place gives you reason as to why you're there in the first place. And secondly, just kind of, again, accepting that comparison is really a thief of joy. You know, everyone works at their own different paces and everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. And being able to really deal with that, I think that that's also applicable to A levels as well. You're going to be seeing your peers and stuff doing thousands of exam questions, and it might work for them. And you might be only doing like, you know, like on physics and maths tutor, one set, and that's enough for you, and you're confident. You know, you shouldn't be feeling as if, you know, like you're any less in that sense.
yeah.
But I would probably say, like, dealing with that imposter syndrome, I think for me has been like the most challenging part. And being like, okay, I need to be doing what everyone else is doing. But in fact, that's just not the case at all. And yeah, everyone does really work at their own pace.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think because you're going to be surrounded with people of like really good calibers anyway, you're naturally going to feel that. I think regardless of where you are, especially in your setting, you're going to be around so many different people from all over, and they're all going to have
Yeah,
something to bring, isn't it? So you naturally feel sometimes, gosh, am I in the right place, kind of thing. But and you should
exactly.
rightfully feel that you're in the right environment because you deserve to be where you are because you worked hard to get there, and just like everybody else,
Exactly.
you're just as great. So you should never feel that way. On the flip side, what's been the most rewarding part of it, would you say?
I would probably say, like, I would genuinely say the clinics, like being able to treat patients and stuff. I would say that is so rewarding. Like,
Mm,
you know, you kind of hear about it when you apply and stuff. And then once you're in the moment, it's so surreal. And it's like, whoa, I'm actually doing the treatment on people. And also, we have the system where you can kind of refer your friends and family as well to the hospital to treat them too. So, like, I've treated my cousin, for example, and I'm going to be treating another one soon as well. So, being able to
nice.
kind of give back to your friends and family in that sense as well, it kind of gives you a reason as to like why you did it in the first place, and it solidifies that. So, I would say that's been like the most rewarding part for me,
Yeah.
100%.
No, definitely. I think especially when you're, helping family members and you're doing something, it feels really exciting, and for them, it's like a proud moment as well. So it's like I remember going back. One of my friends, a pilot, and when he was doing his training, and he used to go flight school and take some of us with him at times, and I remember I used to go with him some of the flights, and it was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
my friend doing it, kind of thing. Like he's going to be
exactly.
a
Like,
pilot,
that's
and
so
then for
cool.
you, it'd be like your cousin's coming to you, like, oh, that's my cousin doing my teeth today, or it's like it's a
Yeah,
big moment, and I think it makes you really happy, and yeah, it's exciting to be, especially like you said, it's a rewarding thing for you as well because you're helping somebody out, and that's what you're going to be doing
yeah,
for going forward, and hence why it's such a rewarding career in the long run, isn't it? And I
yeah.
know.
It's so rewarding.
Definitely. I know like a lot of people that want to be doctors, dentists in general. I always say to you can't all be doctors, you can't all be dentists. So what kind of person do
Yeah.
you think would thrive in dentistry? What would be
I would say someone who's like naturally compassionate. They don't have to force it, you know, but they have that empathy, they have that ability to connect with other people. they have that ability to really want to be able to like that selflessness, I would say. Um, that's really important when it comes to dentistry because there's going to be a lot of times like you have to put the patient's interest first, right?
Mhm.
So being able to do that, but also being able to do that with a really level head, having that ability to kind of judge the situation, your own capabilities, and being really proactive in that sense as well. That's another quality. Sorry. Also
No.
being able to communicate as well with patients, with people who are old, people who are young, being able to crack a joke here and there as well. I think that's really important, but doing so in a professional manner as well, knowing your boundaries, that's also really important too.
Mm.
Another quality, working a team, you're going to be constantly working with other people. Whether or not you like them or not is a different question, but being able to do things in an effective manner where you're, working alongside other people to provide patients with the best care you possibly can is another really important quality
Mhm.
too. Also, again, being able to strike that balance between academics and having that social life as well, being able to do that, not being too overwhelmed and feeling that pressure constantly on yourself and being able to manage and take yourself out of your comfort zone and doing so in a way that you're confident is also another really important quality to have, I would say.
Definitely. I think a lot of people usually think you need to be, you need to have good dexterity, you need to be good with your
No,
hands,
no, no,
you need to be
no.
detail orientated, but you have to be just as good at communication and being empathetic toward others. And you need to be able to understand
100%.
different people and communicate with them. And all of those skills are just as important. But I think you
Yeah.
summed it up
If
really nicely. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, especially when it comes to the dexterity thing, your dexterity, like I would say, like, if I was applying my dexterity, I did this, like in my personal statement to bring it back to that topic.
Yeah.
Your dexterity increases like crazy during dental school, I'd say. Like, and what you did before, as much as yes, like you're showing that you did this, like a certain skill, for example, to improve your dexterity, I would say, like, in comparison to those other like personal skills, those are more important
Mhm.
because dexterity is something you can build up on in dental
Exactly.
school as well.
Exactly. Comes with practice, right? You're gonna build on it because you're gonna have to deal with it for so many, different scenarios, and it just naturally you're gonna get better at it when you have more practice. Yeah, no, definitely. Now, what's something about studying dentistry that people often don't realize? Would you say?
But I would say that it's a very heavily romanticized degree. And I would say, especially again, like in the era of social media and stuff, you kind of see a lot of content creators and stuff showing dentistry as this incredible degree, loads of opportunity. And don't get me wrong, it is. But also, it kind of negates the hard work that you have to put into to get to that level, And it doesn't show you like the struggles of dental school as well, where you could be cramming the night before for an exam. But on social media, of course, you're going to see all like the amazing parts of it, where you can see like the view, for example, from Guy's Hospital. You're going to see everyone having loads of fun and stuff. And as much as, yes, there is that aspect, and that is completely true as well, you have to, that doesn't take away from how stressful the degree actually is and how much effort and work you do have to put in order for you to get to a place like that where you can fully enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And I'd say dentists as well nowadays, they're very onto like their social media and stuff and they portray their lifestyles. Of course, yes, you do earn a good income. You do have that like 9 to 5 kind of lifestyle where you don't have to be working 7 days a week, for example. But again, no one shows how hard it is to get to that level, and the effort and the work that it takes. Like not everyone's showing what you actually have to go through
Mm,
to get to that, I think. And I think that that's really underplayed when it comes to dental school and what people don't really
mm,
think about. But another thing that's kind of less social media orientated, I'd say, is that again, it's not just teeth. It's kind of you do have to know your full body. Last year was literally a complete medicine degree for me. I was literally learning about the kidneys, the lungs, the heart, the brain, all the different types of diseases and how you treat those. And we got a massive test on it at the end of the year as well. So you do have to know like your full body kind of anatomy and kind of diseases and stuff very well. It's not just this area.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's another important part, I'd
Yeah,
say.
absolutely. I think that you kind of going a step ahead from what you said as well. I want to kind of touch upon as well because a lot of people don't realize because the emotional
Yeah.
side of patient care, for example, the physical
Yeah.
demand of the job itself, because you're going to be on your feet for long hours, you're going to be sitting down for long hours, and how early you have to start on a daily basis. All of those things a lot of people don't think about, because you have to do those
No.
long days. And yes, obviously, you're gonna make good money at the end of it, what have you. But at the same time, you have to think about all of those things that goes on behind the scenes. Sometimes I feel like
Yeah.
those TikTok dentists or Instagram dentists don't ever
They
talk
don't show
about. They just show
any.
the glamorous side of or just selling Invisalign everywhere. That's all I see everywhere on social media. It's like, come to
Yeah,
my clinic, you
it
can get
literally
Invisalign
is.
for this much. And I'm like, okay,
I've seen that too, and it's literally like, it's not just that, like, there's so much work behind the scenes that no one shows,
yeah,
and I think that that's so important as well, just to keep in mind when you're applying that it's not just gonna be what you see immediately.
yeah,
Like, you're gonna have to build yourself up constantly in order to get to a position like that, and as much as, of course, I would like it to be the case where I was one of those people where, you'd see me selling Invisalign, like, all over TikTok, for example,
yeah,
but I'm in no position to obviously do that, you know?
mm,
So I think keeping that, like, just keeping that level head as well when you're applying as well, and not
absolutely.
getting too kind of baited into it.
Hmm.
I think that's really important.
Definitely. And let's say for A-level students listening who are thinking about applying to dentistry, what's your biggest piece of advice?
I would probably say it's to make sure that you look into it properly. Again, like, we're in this age where social media kind of changes our perception on a lot of things. And I would say make sure that you do your work experience, you look into it, see whether it's the correct career for you, look into the universities, see whether you actually like the course and the way that they're teaching it. Go to the open days as well. Again, that's something I just didn't do. And I don't know why I didn't. But again, doing all of those things in preparation for your application. And I know it sounds tedious and long to do it all, but actually going for it and putting in that effort to make sure that you're making the right decisions is so important.
Mm,
And also being able to go into it knowing that it might not be the outcome that you want, and you're going to have to be able to kind of take that on in the moment and be able to process that too. Because again, coming back to that kind of rejection and failure kind of topic,
yeah.
knowing that as much as you'd like it to be yellow brick road all the time, it might not be. So having a look into that and kind of being rational about it as well. I think that's also another important thing I'd
No,
say.
I mean, that's great advice. In terms of, like, I know we kind of talked about it earlier, but I feel like we didn't really delve into
Mhm.
it much. But like, how did you
Yeah.
manage your own balance during sixth form? Because obviously, I feel like you talked about work experience, what you did, and you
Yeah.
talked about your exams and UCAT generally, like how you went about UCAT. But like, what about juggling between your exams itself? Because I feel like a lot of students can benefit from this because they find it really difficult to manage the workload in sixth form.
No, of course. So I would probably say, kind of structure your day out.
Hmm.
Have a day where I just say where you're just doing nothing,
Mm.
completely like nothing, or doing something that you maybe enjoy, like a sport or an activity or something of that sort.
Mm.
Making sure you have that day is really important. Like, I know I would have a day, for example, where I would just kind of listen to music, for example, draw, play the guitar, something like that. Kind of focus more on your hobbies. But I'd say throughout the week, because you're already going to school, I'd say maybe keeping those days more academic, revising, doing your exam questions. And I know it's tiring as well after a long day of school, but doing that, I would say. And then on the weekends, kind of taking it more easy. Maybe one day doing your work experience, for example. And again, coming back to that work experience kind of thing, 3 or 4 hours is enough. You don't have to do the full 9 to 5 with the dentist
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
You're not pressurized to. But yeah, 3 to 4 hours of just seeing patients is enough, or even if you want to and you wanna make sure that that's solid, slightly more. But I
Mm.
would never say do, like, a full day because that is really tiring, and of course, you've got other things to do too. UCAT, I personally focused on it during my summer. Again, I'd allocate around 1 to 2 hours, um, a day to do it.
Mm.
And then after that, I'd kind of take myself out of it. And I would say on days where I was tired, I would focus on doing notes instead because that's more passive rather than actively revising. That just personally worked for me because I knew that if I was tired, nothing's going to go in my head anyway. So
Yeah.
I was like, I might as well make my flashcards and prepare and go ahead in that sense rather than just kind of force myself to revise when I know I'm not going to do it effectively. So, in terms of managing, I would say make sure that you kind of have a structure to your week and get into a routine. If you know you're a morning person, and don't try and force yourself to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning trying to study, for example. or vice versa. If
Yeah.
you're like a night owl, for example, don't force yourself to wake up at 5 o'clock to like revise if you know that's not going to work for you. Do things according to the way you know it's going to work for you rather than kind of doing it based on what you've heard.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's another thing.
Absolutely. I think to summarize what you've said in a kind of what I would understand from it is I think planning
Yeah.
is important, not overloading
Yeah.
yourself is important, and self-care is
100%.
just as important as well. So you have to have a
Yeah.
balance of those things, I think, and then you'll be successful. But I think many
Yeah.
a lot of people can hopefully benefit from this because they just cram everything in otherwise and not have any plan in place.
Don't do that. That's not good for you. Honestly, by
Definitely.
cramming and stuff, you're literally gonna cause yourself to go into a panic mode and
Hmm.
then you're just not gonna remember it. Like pace yourself out. And I know like that does sound really long and really boring. And of course, no one wants to be doing work for like a long period of time. But slowly building yourself up to that isn't just gonna prepare you for A levels, but also for the future when you're in university and content is a little bit harder.
Yeah,
So I'd say that too.
great. Looking ahead, are there any particular areas of dentistry that interests you the most?
I would actually say I'm really open right now.
Okay.
So, I would say that right now, I don't know, like I had a day of oral surgery, so that's like extraction and stuff. That seemed really appealing, I'd say. But as of that, I would say that my mind is so open to
Yeah, of
everything
course.
because we haven't obviously done
Mm,
half of like the
mm.
procedures. And I also don't really know what I'm good at yet. So even to, again, bringing in the personal statement, don't write what specialities you're interested in because it shows that you have a closed mind. And if dental students don't know what they want to do, like it's going to kind of throw them off a little bit because then they're going to be like, wow, you already know what you want to do, but
Yeah,
you're not even in dental school.
yeah,
So I'd say steer away from that too. But my mind's honestly open until
yeah.
like whenever I qualify.
I think you've got so much to still do. So like I've because obviously you
Yeah.
worked with I think you mentioned earlier on about pediatrics and so some people might go
Yeah.
into pediatric dentistry, for example. Some people might choose to go into
Yeah.
cosmetics, orthodontics, or oral surgery, or whatever it may be. Like there's so many fields you can go into, but
So
I
many
think you'll
different
find
fields you can go.
I think over time you'll kind of find what's right for you, I suppose, and then you'll
Yeah.
kind of go with that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think everyone's kind of bound to find something that they're interested in. It doesn't really matter
Yeah.
whether like I know I said I don't know what I'm good at,
Yeah.
but it's kind of a mixture of both what you're good at and what you're interested
Yeah.
in. Well,
Yeah.
more so what you're interested in, if anything.
Yeah.
So I would say, and there's so many new fields as well coming out as well, especially right now. There's like holistic dentistry where there's a lot of focus on as well as like breathing techniques, like your
Mm.
meridians and your channels and stuff. And there's a lot of influence of that now as well coming into like the dental field. And that in itself is quite a surprise to a lot of people because dentistry is so scientific. So there's new fields opening all the
Yeah.
time as well and
Absolutely.
more niches.
Yeah.
So it's honestly just whatever you find interesting, kind of going for that. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and then you can build those skills up afterwards.
No, definitely. I think I know you mentioned about still early days to kind of know exactly which
Yeah.
kind of side you're going to go into. But like in terms of like after graduation, do you see yourself kind of staying in a
Mm.
clinic? Would you say, or like not? And you don't have to know it, but would you say like more of a clinic person,
Yeah.
or like a hospital setting person, or like a more research related person? Like what would you prefer to do, or is you don't really kind of how you know you're undecided?
I would probably say I think the clinic life really appeals to me
Hmm.
purely because like, like I don't know, it just seems more fun. But also hospital as well does sound is more interesting to me now. I don't think I ever considered it before going into uni.
Yeah.
But that's also another route that I am interested in. Like even just to get experience in, like even for 1 year. Like you can do something called like a DCT year. So that sounds really interesting to do as well. And I would probably say like that's kind of my route. I'd say research I'm kind of steering away from purely because I like being more hands-on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say but doing research is also really cool as well because it obviously adds to your CV and it kind of shows that you're more into the dental industry
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's
What was
all
the
really
DCT thing you mentioned? Like, what does that involve? Like,
Oh, so the DCT is basically when you do like a year, I think, in hospital.
oh,
So
okay.
you kind of train, if I'm not mistaken, I
Hmm.
think you train alongside like, like the maxillofacial surgeons, for
Yeah.
example, like people who are more doing more surgery and kind of getting more involved in that instead.
Right.
So I think that's
Sure.
really interesting as well, being able to do that. But I think for me, going into oral maxillofacial surgery, it's a lot because you have to do you have to do a medical degree after this as well. And I don't think, I don't think I want to do that. But
I think it's
yeah,
intense
I
as it
think
is. It's probably like, oh, I don't want to do anymore. No,
yeah, yeah,
understandable.
yeah, I think those are for people who are, like, really, really into it,
Mhm.
and I commend all of them. I have so much respect for them. So, yeah.
Cool. So finally, I would say if you could give one piece of advice to your 17-year-old self applying to dentistry, what would it be?
I know it sounds so cliche, but I'd say failure is the first step to success. And you have to, I feel like, be able to deal with that failure and be able to take those, like I said as well, take the negatives and spin them into positives and take away the lesson from it in order for you to really, really understand yourself and really be able to get through the application
Yeah.
process as well. And I think that's what I would have told my 17-year-old self. Like, make sure, and also to make sure that I actually look into it properly, especially the unis and like all of that kind of aspect of the whole UCAS application and stuff.
Mhm.
Definitely that, I'd say. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's perfect note to end on, actually. So, Shafali, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today and sharing
No,
your
thank you so
journey.
much for having me. No,
No,
thank you so much for having
it
me.
was honestly
Honestly, I really enjoyed this.
really insightful for me, and I'm sure this will really help anyone listening who's thinking about applying for dentistry. So, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out.
No, of course, of course. No, thank you so much for having me. And I hope this really helps whoever's like listening to this or
Mhm.
watching this and that you've gained from this. And if you do have any questions, like please don't hesitate to let Mr. Abdul know so he can come into contact with me and then I can answer the questions for you.
So I think that's a good way to end it today. So, and that's it for today's episode, everyone. A huge thank you to Shafali for sharing her story and giving us a peek into what life is like as a dentistry student. We hope this episode has inspired and informed all aspiring dentists out there. Don't forget to follow Pathways to Success with Ali so you never miss an episode. And if you found this helpful, like, subscribe, and share with somebody who's thinking about dentistry. Until next time, keep sharing, keep learning, keep smiling like Shafali. See you next time.